The Northwest Passage was supposed to change global trade. The ice is retreating, so why do most ships still refuse to go anywhere near it? In 2025, the global merchant fleet had almost 119,000 ships. Yet, while the Panama Canal faces historic droughts and the Suez remains a dangerous spot for world politics, the world's most famous hidden trade route is open, but global shipping avoids it. It all adds up to an Arctic puzzle. But it's more complicated than you might realize. Yes, the ice is disappearing, but a new and far more dangerous obstacle is showing up. Before I get to that though, you have to understand something about global shipping. It isn't built around bravery, it's built around predictability. A shortcut is only useful if you can schedule it, insure it, staff it, and guarantee it'll still be open when the ship arrives. And that's where the Northwest Passage breaks the rules of how modern trade actually works. A shipping route isn't just a line on a map. It's a contract with time. Ports book berth slots, cranes and trucks are scheduled, customs windows open and close. If you miss the window, the system doesn't wait, it moves on without you, and the costs stack up. In September of 2025, a Dutch freighter, the MV Thamesburg, ran aground while moving through the Franklin Strait. A rescue mission had to be launched just to get it unstuck. That's the reality up here. One wrong call, one bad chart, one shift in conditions, and you're not delayed, you're frozen. That's why the most valuable routes aren't the shortest, they're the most stable. To people who don't know the region, the Northwest Passage sounds like a clean path cutting through the north. In reality, it's a complex web of routes weaving through the Canadian Arctic group of islands, stretching 900 miles from Baffin Bay in the east to Beaufort Sea in the west. But that danger does come with rewards. A container ship traveling from New York to Tokyo currently has to go across the Panama Canal, a journey of roughly 9,700 nautical miles. By taking the Northwest Passage, that journey drops to about 7,000 nautical miles. It isn't just about saving time, it's about saving money. Shaving 10 to 14 days off a voyage means burning less fuel. In an industry where shipping by sea is worth over $14 trillion every year, the Northwest Passage should be the most valuable piece of real estate on Earth. The appeal is obvious. We've seen what happens when a single ship gets stuck in the Suez, or when climate change drains the locks of the Panama Canal. The world needs this route. To understand why it still isn't used, you have to understand what this place does to ships, and what it does to plans. Because global shipping doesn't collapse from big disasters, it collapses from tiny failures that spread. Most people imagine shipping like a simple race. A shorter route equals a faster arrival. But global shipping isn't a race, it's about efficiency. The biggest carriers don't profit because one voyage is fast, they profit because thousands of voyages are repeatable. That's what makes the Northwest Passage so frustrating. On a map, it looks like a miracle. A route to quicker shipments and maximized profits. But in reality, it injects uncertainty into a system built to remove uncertainty. And until the passage reaches that level of reliability, the shortcut is just a theory with ice floating through it. And if you like these geography deep dives, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's one way to break the ice. The quest for the Northwest Passage didn't begin with climate science. It began with greed and the age of exploration. In 1497, John Cabot sailed from England, hoping to find a western route to the silks and spices of Asia. He failed. For the next 3 centuries, the Arctic became a graveyard for European dreams. Sir Martin Frobisher died in the 1570s. On his first voyage, he landed at present-day Baffin Island, believing it to be the entrance to the passage. He brought back a haul of gold that turned out to be worthless pyrite. His second and third attempts failed and bankrupted his backers. Henry Hudson tried in 1610, only to be left behind by his angry crew in the bay that now bears his name, and he was never seen again. But no story shows the total fear of the region like the 1845 trip of Sir John Franklin. He sailed with 2 of the most advanced ships of the Victorian era, the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror. They were stronger, made with iron, equipped with steam engines, and stocked with 3 years' worth of food. The ships headed north and were never seen again. For 150 years, what happened to the 129 men aboard remained a mystery. It wasn't until 2014 and 2016 that the wrecks were discovered on the ocean floor. The evidence gathered from grave sites on Beechy Island told a terrifying story. Ships trapped in the ice for years. lead poisoning from poorly made cans, starvation, and eventually cannibalism. The message from the Arctic was clear: you're not welcome here. It wasn't until 1903 that the Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen finally made it through the passage. But even his success proved how difficult the route was. It took him 3 years in a small fishing boat called the Gjoa. Amundsen had to wait 2 winters for the ice to open up enough to squeeze his tiny craft through. But he did it. He proved the route existed. Throughout the 20th century, interest in the passage remained small, a place for icebreakers and Cold War submarines. But as we entered the 2020s, the world noticed something. The impenetrable wall was starting to crumble. You would think that less ice means easier sailing, but you'd be wrong. In the Arctic, less ice can be worse. As the climate warms, the old multi-year ice, the heavy, stable stuff, doesn't just melt away. It breaks apart, and instead of one predictable barrier, you get a moving field of hazards. Think of it like a frozen road turning into a river of shattered glass. The big sheet is gone, but now the ocean is filled with pieces that drift, collide, and wedge themselves into narrow channels. These are ice plugs. One day the route is open, the next a choke point can be blocked by a 10-mile-wide field of broken ice. In 2023, ships had to turn back or take shelter because open water vanished in hours. Even satellites don't solve the problem. Some ice rides low in the water, fog can wipe out visibility, and then there's the humans on the bridge. This isn't an Atlantic crossing on autopilot. It's high-intensity navigation, non-stop scanning, and constant recalculations. Sleep gets broken, stress stays high, the cold makes every task slower and more dangerous. Equipment strains, sensors ice over, deckwork turns risky. Fatigue doesn't just slow crews down, it makes them overconfident at the worst moments. That's why the Northwest Passage is so strange. The Arctic isn't opening into a highway, it's opening into chaos. To sail through the Northwest Passage, a company can't just use a standard cargo ship. It requires polar-class ships with extra strong hulls. These ships are more expensive to build, heavier, and carry less cargo. But they also burn more fuel when they aren't carving through the ice. Because the passage is so remote and dangerous, insurance companies often charge more to cover a single trip, up to 50%. And that's if they agree to cover it at all. Add up these specialized ships, the higher insurance, and the slow speeds, and the savings start to vanish. Shorter distance, more expenses. The route is only accessible for 4 months of the year, from July to October. Even then, it's still risky. But the Panama and Suez routes, even with their delays, remain more reliable and attractive. And here's where another reality comes into play. A route only saves money if you can move through it efficiently, but the Northwest Passage often forces slow steaming and constant adjustments. You're not just choosing a route, you're minimizing hazards. That creates decision points that don't exist in normal shipping lanes. Do you slow down because visibility drops? Do you change course because ice moved? Do you push forward because waiting burns time and fuel? Every decision costs money. And in the Arctic, you often have to decide with incomplete information. That's one reason the passage doesn't behave like a normal shipping lane. A normal trade lane is routine. You point the bow and go. The Northwest Passage is closer to an obstacle course, one that can have pretty deadly results. So even though the distance is shorter, the transit can become slower, riskier, and more expensive. The exact opposite of what makes shipping profitable. But let's just say you have the right ship and you're willing to take the risk. You still have to face the total lack of a safety net. This is one of the most remote places on Earth, and that changes everything. There are no deepwater ports up here built for a 1,300-foot container ship. The Coast Guard has a handful of aging icebreakers spread across millions of square miles. So if something goes wrong, you're not calling the nearest port. You're calling for help that might not show up for days. If your engine fails out here, help arrives in 72 hours, if the weather allows it. And we've already seen how fast things can go south. In 2018, the cruise ship Academic Ioffe ran aground, and rescue still took time because there's no quick response in a place this empty. Modern shipping doesn't just need a dock, it needs an entire ecosystem. Charts you can trust, pilots, tugs, fuel, Cranes, storage, repair crews, spare parts. The Northwest Passage doesn't just miss one of these pieces, it misses most of them. On major routes, disruption is expensive, but it's manageable. Ships can divert, refuel elsewhere, swap crews, offload cargo. The system absorbs the hit. Up here, the system barely exists. A small issue doesn't stay small. A broken pump can become a multi-day delay. A forecast can trap you waiting on ice to move. And building real infrastructure isn't just hard, it's brutal. Permafrost, extreme cold, short construction windows, fragile supply lines. In most places, ports grow around an economy. In the Arctic, the port would have to create one while fighting the environment. That's why the passage still isn't a highway. It's just a high-risk transit. Accidents hit harder too. In warm waters, spill response is difficult, but it's possible. In freezing seas, cleanup can be slower, harder, and sometimes just impossible. So the risk isn't just damage, it's headlines, lawsuits, political blowback, and becoming the story. And most shipping companies do not want to be the company that dumps fuel into one of the most fragile environments on Earth because they tried to chase a shortcut. And that's why the real battle isn't just ice, it's whether you can build an ecosystem out here at all. The lack of viable help is the reason why Russia's northern sea route currently sees much more traffic. Russia has spent tens of billions on a fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers and a string of Arctic ports. Canada, by comparison, has spent decades treating the North as a wild area that needs to be protected. Russia built an expressway, Canada built a fence. But even if Canada built ports tomorrow, even if icebreakers multiplied overnight, one problem would still freeze the route in place: the law. The biggest barrier to the Northwest Passage isn't the ice and it isn't the money, it's ownership. Who owns the North? Canada says they do. The United States says nobody does. Yet. And the argument comes down to 4 words: internal waters versus international strait. Canada says the passage is internal waters, meaning they control it completely. The United States says it's an international strait, meaning no one does. That disagreement isn't theoretical. It decides whether a ship can be stopped, inspected, charged, or denied passage entirely. When ownership is disputed, operators assume the strictest rules possible: more reporting, more compliance, more risk. And if anything goes wrong, more legal exposure. Shipping companies can work around danger, but they can't work around unclear authority. That's why in 2025, only 13 ships completed full transits of the Northwest Passage, while Russia's Arctic route saw over 100. Washington argues the Northwest Passage is an international strait, a route linking 2 open oceans that must allow free passage for all nations. And that includes warships and submarines, as long as they move through without stopping. To the US, the real fear isn't Canada, it's precedent. If one country can turn a global shortcut into a regulated route, it gives every disputed waterway a new blueprint. For shipping, that means uncertainty, and uncertainty becomes cost, which kills the shortcut. Shipping can live with danger when rules are unstable, but when the ice is unpredictable and the law is too, the risk doubles. Legal uncertainty doesn't replace the ice problem, it stacks on top of it. Yet even as governments argue over territorial claims and rights, the harsh realities of the Northwest Passage continue. Even if the Arctic becomes more open, it won't immediately become more usable, because open water isn't the same as safe water. And safe water isn't the same as profitable water. The Northwest Passage has to become reliable, serviced, rescue-capable, and legally predictable before it becomes normal. But there's one other factor that doesn't care about ice charts or legal baselines: the cargo inside the containers. Shipping companies don't just move boxes, they move other people's money. And customers decide which routes are acceptable. Some cargo is tough. Late delivery is inconvenient. Other cargo is fragile. Late delivery makes it worthless. And some cargo is strategic. If it arrives late, factories stall, contracts break, and the costs explode past the freight rate. That's why the busiest routes aren't just good geography. They're dependable, routine, repeatable. The Northwest Passage doesn't just ask ships to take a risk. It asks cargo owners to accept one too. Most of them won't. So it stays niche. Arctic-capable vessels, special missions, tourism, research, and cargo that can survive delays. That's not exactly a global shipping highway. Right now, the Northwest Passage still feels like an expedition that sometimes succeeds. Navigable, yes. Reliable, not yet. But despite all of this, there's another voice that's becoming impossible to ignore: the Inuit. The Canadian Arctic isn't empty. For roughly 65,000 Inuit in Canada's north, this isn't a shortcut, it's home, and a route they've used for thousands of years. Canada's 2024 Arctic policy was built with Inuit leadership, tying control to Indigenous rights. Inuit groups want strict environmental rules, protection for hunting grounds and wildlife, and a share of the shipping upside. By 2026, they aren't just watching, they're the gatekeepers, watching their world melt and deciding what comes through it. As ships move through the Arctic, they burn heavy fuel. This releases black carbon, essentially soot. In most parts of the world, this just kind of washes away. In the Arctic, it lands on the snow and ice. It causes the ice to melt even faster, creating a dangerous cycle. More ships lead to more soot, which leads to less ice, which leads to more ships. Canada's Arctic plan includes some of the world's strictest rules for nature. They want to ban heavy fuel and force ships to follow strict polar rules. That means Arctic shipping will come with extra compliance, extra fuel restrictions, extra inspections, and extra risk. And this makes the route even less attractive to the companies that move the world's cargo at razor-thin margins. If Canada can set the nature rules for the North, they effectively set the rules for the future of world trade. Some scientists believe that by 2040, the Arctic could have its first summer with no ice at all. The Northwest Passage will be wide open, and when that happens, the Northwest Passage will look like the ultimate shortcut. A blue waterway where there used to be ice, a new line across the top of the world. But the real question won't be, is it open? The real question will be, can it behave like a normal shipping route? Because mainstream shipping lanes aren't created by one good year. They're created by decades of reliability, infrastructure, and trust. A true global route needs routine services, dependable support, stable enforcement, and an ecosystem that can respond quickly when something goes wrong. If those things grow in the Arctic over time, the passage could evolve, first as a seasonal corridor, then as a specialized trade option, and maybe one day as a major lane. But that shift won't just happen because the ice is gone. Until then, the Northwest Passage will remain what it always has been: a shortcut that looks perfect on a map and behaves like a trap the moment you try to use it. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please consider subscribing and turn on notifications. Really does make a difference. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time on MapPack.